I died, but not completely. My soul was trapped inside my own urn. The day after the funeral, my mom said to my urn, "Sweetheart, what's the weather like today?" I subconsciously replied, "Sunny then cloudy, northwest wind at force 3 to 4. Then the whole house went silent. From that day on, my unreliable family treated me like a fully automatic smart home assistant. "Honey, help me check if the ribs in the pot are ready." "Sis, quickly search where I stuffed my stinky sock." The most outrageous was my dad. He actually asked my urn, "Girl, where's your mother hiding her private money?" Seriously, I couldn't even rest in peace after death. My name is Riley, 24 years old, and I died in an accident. When my consciousness returned, I found myself trapped in a small, cold and airtight space. Outside, I could hear my mom, Susan, crying her heart out, and my dad, George, offering muffled comfort. It dawned on me that I was inside my urn. The funeral was held hastily. My good-for-nothing older brother, Justin, cried harder than anyone else. Snot and tears smeared all over his face, even while snatching the apple from in front of my memorial tablet. I was so angry that my soul was trembling, but I couldn't make a sound. The day after the funeral, an eerie calm returned to the house. I was placed on the most conspicuous shelf in the living room, with an excellent view directly facing the sofa and television. My mom, Susan, sat blankly on the sofa with dark circles under her eyes. After a long while, she picked up the remote control to turn on the TV, but couldn't find the power button. She looked around blankly, her gaze finally landing on my urn. As if possessed, she softly asked, "Sweetheart, what's the weather like today?" I was stunned by this sudden question. Almost out of muscle memory from my life, I replied in a monotonous, electronic-like tone, "Sunny then cloudy, northwest wind at force 3 to 4. As soon as I finished speaking, the entire living room fell into a deathly silence. The remote control in my mom's hand fell to the ground with a clatter. My dad, who was peeking his head out of the kitchen door, opened his mouth wide enough to fit an egg. My brother, Justin, who had just come out of his room yawning, froze with his hand halfway to rubbing his eyes. 3 pairs of eyes, all at once, fearfully, looked at my plain ebony box. My heart skipped a beat. "Crap," I spoke. "Who was just talking?" My dad, George, asked tremblingly, his voice shaking like a leaf in the autumn wind. My mom ignored him. She stared intently at me, as if trying to burn through my urn with her gaze. Tentatively, she asked again, "Riley? Riley, is that you?" This time, I learned my lesson, clamped my mouth shut, shrunk my soul into a ball, and pretended to be just a quiet pile of ashes. But my mom clearly wasn't going to let me off the hook. She carefully walked over, reached out a finger, gently touched my box, and then retracted it as if she had been shocked. "Honey, if you can hear me, answer your mother." Her voice was filled with sobs and a hint of barely noticeable excitement. I continued to play dead. "Riley, if you don't speak up, I'm going to spoil the ending of that idol drama you didn't finish last month." "Who could stand that?" "Don't," I shouted. The house fell silent again. 1 second, 2 seconds. Oh my goodness. My mom slapped her thigh, stopped crying, and wasn't scared anymore. Instead, she hugged my box with a look of surprise. "My daughter has become a spirit." My dad and brother also crowded around, 3 heads surrounding me like they were visiting a rare animal. "This is unscientific." My brother, Justin, pushed up his glasses that didn't have any prescription, with a serious expression, "According to materialism." "Materialism, my foot." My mom slapped him on the back of the head. "This is your sister. What materialism? This is a miracle. It's love." From that day on, my miserable life, or rather, my miserable ghost life, officially began. At first, they still had a shred of awe for my talking urn, but that awe only lasted for less than 24 hours. On the 3rd morning, my mom was busy in the kitchen when she suddenly shouted, "Honey, help me check if the ribs in the pot are done." I was enshrined in the living room, a million miles away from the kitchen. How was I supposed to look? I retorted grumpily, "I don't have X-ray vision." "Oh, just sensate. You're a god now. You must have supernatural powers." My mom's tone was perfectly justified. What supernatural powers could I have? My greatest supernatural power is being trapped here and unable to go anywhere. I remained silent. 2 minutes later, a burnt smell came from the kitchen. It's burning, it's burning. My mom yelled as she rushed out, still holding a spatula. It's all your fault. I told you to watch it, and you didn't. This blame. Even death couldn't escape it. Soon my brother, Justin, also discovered my new use. He was halfway through a game when he roared. Sis. Quick. Where's the jungler on the other team? Hack the game and give me a map hack. I shut my mouth. Hurry up and talk. I'm being caught to death. I'm in the living room, thank you. Feel it. You're a spirit now, you can definitely walk through walls. I was about to have my soul scattered by this unreliable family. The most outrageous one was my dad, George. While my mom was out buying groceries, he crept up to me, lowered his voice, and asked in what he thought was a secret tone. Girl, tell dad the truth. Where's your mom hiding her secret stash of money? I answered him in the coldest voice I had in this life. No, in my past life combined with this one. Dad, do you want to come down and join me? My dad shuddered in fright, immediately straightened his body and said righteously, I was just asking, concerned about the safety of the family property. I swear, I can't even rest in peace after death. Just when I thought my ghost life was going to be spent on these trivial family matters, a real trouble came knocking. The doorbell rang. My mom went to open the door, and standing there was my aunt, Brenda. She was dressed in all black, with a sorrowful expression on her face, but there wasn't a trace of sadness in those shrewd eyes, only undisguised calculation. Sister-in-law, I've come to see you. Alas, Riley, how could this child just leave like that? She said, squeezing through the door, her eyes scanning our house like radar. My mom was in low spirits and didn't notice her strangeness, just sighed and let her in. Auntie plunked down on the sofa, her gaze landing on me. Oh, this is Riley's box, huh? She clucked her tongue twice. Sister-in-law, not to criticize, but you shouldn't have spent so much money on Riley to study painting. It's completely useless. Now the person is gone and the money's wasted. If you ask me, you'd have been better off buying a small apartment to rent out with that money. My mom's face instantly turned pale. Brenda, what kind of talk is that? I'm just doing this for your own good. Auntie spread her hands. Now there's only the three of you left. It's a waste to live in such a big house, why don't you? Listening to her grating voice, an inexplicable fire ignited in my soul. This aunt had never liked our family, always feeling that my parents were biased towards me and gave me the best of everything. Now that I've just passed away, she can't wait to jump out and covet our house. I was trembling with anger, wishing I could jump out of the box and tear her mouth apart. Just then, my mom suddenly spoke to me. Daughter, do you think your aunt is right? I was stunned. Everyone in the living room was looking at me, including my mean aunt. Auntie Brenda laughed exaggeratedly as if she had heard the biggest joke in the world. Sister-in-law, are you so distraught you've lost your mind? Are you talking to a box? My dad and brother also looked embarrassed. They were clearly not prepared to reveal the secret of me being a smart speaker to the public. My mom, however, was unusually persistent. She looked at me steadily and asked again. Riley, tell Mom. I knew my mom was stung by my aunt's words. She was asking me for help, seeking affirmation. I couldn't let her down. I cleared my throat and, in a voice that was so steady it was almost mechanical, said, word by word. Auntie is wrong. Every penny I spent was my parents' love for me. Love cannot be measured with money. The voice wasn't loud, but it was like a thunderbolt that exploded in the silent living room. Brenda's laughter stopped abruptly. The expression on her face changed from sarcasm to astonishment, and finally settled on fear. Who's talking? She jumped up from the sofa, looking around in terror. My dad and brother were also stunned, obviously not expecting me to speak in front of an outsider. My mom, however, smiled, tears still in the corners of her eyes. She gently stroked my box, as if stroking my hair. That's my daughter, she said. My daughter feels sorry for me. Brenda's face turned green and white. She pointed at my urn, her fingers trembling. You're crazy. Your whole family is crazy. Talking to a dead person's urn. She probably thought my dad or brother were playing tricks with something, and glared at them fiercely. Stop pretending. George, let me tell you this house. Before she could finish, my brother Justin suddenly yelled, pointing at the TV. The TV, which was originally a black screen, turned on by itself. On the screen was the last painting I painted before I died. It was a family portrait. My mom and dad were smiling happily in the painting, my brother was making a face, and I was standing in the middle, being tightly embraced by them. It was the happiest moment I had recorded with what my mom called useless painting skills. Auntie's voice stuck in her throat. She stared at the TV screen, the color draining completely from her face. "Ghost! There's a ghost!" she screamed and scrambled out of our front door. The world was finally quiet. My dad and brother were still in shock, staring blankly at the TV, then at me. My mom, on the other hand, was hugging me, crying like a child. My Riley. Mom's good girl. I was a little weak. Making the TV work had almost exhausted all my strength. My soul was becoming somewhat transparent, and my consciousness was also starting to blur. But I could feel my mom's body temperature, transmitted through the cold wooden box. So even after death, I could still protect my family. This realization gave my cold soul a trace of warmth. After this incident, my status at home jumped from smart speaker to family treasure. My dad no longer asked about my private money, and he respectfully burned incense morning and night. My brother also stopped asking me to help him cheat, and even voluntarily put away his figurines to make more space for me. My mom treated me even more as a pillar of support, consulting me on everything, big or small. "Daughter, is the stock market up or down today? Daughter, is your brother's new girlfriend reliable? Daughter, where exactly is that good wine your dad hid?" I spent every day in this kind of sweet trouble, and although I still couldn't go anywhere, the days passed quickly. I thought that once we got rid of Aunt, our family life could return to peace. But I was too naive. Brenda was not someone who gave up easily. A week later, she came again. This time, she didn't come alone. Behind her was a man in a tang suit, with a goatee, who looked like a Taoist priest. "Brother, sister-in-law," Brenda said with a smug look. "I've brought you a master. Your house has been so unclean recently. Let the master take a look and exorcise the evil spirits." As soon as the so-called master entered the door, he pulled out a compass in a serious manner and walked around the living room. The compass needle shook in front of me as if it had Parkinson's. "Oh dear." The master stroked his goatee, looking serious. "Your house has extremely heavying energy, and the resentment is lingering, especially here." His finger pointed directly at me. My mom immediately held me in her arms, looking at him vigilantly. "What do you want to do?" "Sister-in-law, don't be afraid," Brenda comforted hypocritically. "Master Wayne is a highly respected person, he's helping you. The resentment in this box is so heavy, it will affect the family's fortune." "Nonsense." My mom trembled with anger. "This is my daughter. Precisely because it's your daughter, she needs to be reincarnated," Brenda coaxed persuasively. "She left so young, with regrets in her heart, that's why her soul lingers in the world. Letting her reincarnate as soon as possible is truly for her own good." These words seemed to make some sense, and my dad and brother were a little shaken. Only my mom firmly held me, not letting anyone get close. I knew that Brenda hadn't given up and wanted to use this method to get rid of me, this obstacle. That Master Wayne pretended to chant a string of incomprehensible spells, then pulled out a yellow talisman from his cloth bag. "This is a soul-suppressing talisman," he said pretentiously. "As long as this talisman is attached to the spirit box, the resentful spirit will naturally dissipate after 49 days. As he spoke, he was about to walk towards me. "Don't touch my daughter." My mom screamed, like a lioness protecting her cubs. Seeing this, Brenda went straight up to pull my mom. "Sister-in-law, wake up. She's already dead. What you're holding is a pile of ashes. Let go of my mom." My brother Justin also became anxious, trying to pull his aunt away. The living room was in chaos. Watching my mom stagger from being pushed by my aunt, a surge of anger rushed to the top of my head. I couldn't just sit and wait for death any longer. I concentrated all my thoughts, staring intently at the yellow talisman in Master Wayne's hand. Just before his hand was about to touch me, the yellow talisman, with a whoosh, spontaneously combusted. The flames instantly flared up, burning Master Wayne, who let out a strange cry and flung his hand away. Everyone was stunned by this sudden scene. Master Wayne looked at his blackened fingers, his face pale. He had been swindling people for so many years, relying on some chemical tricks and reading people's faces, but he had never seen a talisman self-combust. This was a real haunting. Demon. He was terrified, even forgetting his compass, and turned to run out the door. Brenda was also dumbfounded. She didn't expect that the expert she had hired at a high price was so vulnerable. Master Wayne. She took 2 steps, but didn't catch up. She turned her head to look at my family, her eyes filled with surprise and anger. I thought this time she would finally give up. Unexpectedly, she was instead provoked into a frenzy. Good. So it really was you, you little dead brat, causing trouble, she said, her face twisted as she pointed at me. Even after dying, you can't rest in peace and still want to bring misfortune to the family. I think you really don't want to reincarnate. She suddenly rushed into the kitchen, and when she came out, she had a kitchen knife in her hand. Today I will cut you down, you demon. Brenda, you're crazy, my dad exclaimed, rushing forward to try and take the knife from her. But she was like a madwoman, incredibly strong, pushing my dad to the ground with a single shove, and raising the kitchen knife to slash at me in my mom's arms. Everything happened so fast. My mom closed her eyes in fear, and my brother's exclamation got stuck in his throat. I watched as the shiny blade grew larger and larger before my eyes, and an unprecedented power surged from the depths of my soul. I didn't want to die again. I didn't want my family to get hurt. Get out! A clear and angry female voice echoed throughout the living room. Not my mechanical, electronic voice, but my voice from when I was alive. With this roar, an invisible shockwave exploded from me. The kitchen knife in my aunt's hand fell to the ground with a clang, and she herself seemed to have been hit by something, falling backward to the ground. All the glass objects in the living room, windows, coffee table, cups, were instantly covered with spiderweb-like cracks, and then with a crash, shattered all over the floor. The whole house was a mess. And I, after exhausting all my strength, lost consciousness into a sea of darkness. Before I lost consciousness, I heard the sound of the neighbor's door opening, and a young man's surprised exclamation. Uncle, Auntie, what happened to your house? When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying. Placed on a soft pillow. Our living room had been cleaned up, and the broken glass had been replaced with new ones. My mom, my dad, and my brother were surrounding a strange young man, with expressions of gratitude on their faces. I vaguely remembered that young man. He was our next-door neighbor, named Dylan, a programmer it seemed. He usually kept to himself, and we didn't interact much. At the moment he was holding a tablet, pointing it at me. Auntie, don't worry. Dylan's voice was gentle and methodical. I've analyzed the audio files of your smart speaker, and they're very special. The waveform is irregular, but it seems to contain some kind of binary code. I've written a small program. Perhaps we can try to decode it. My mom was so excited she was incoherent. Dylan, you're such a good kid. You must help us talk to Riley. Only then did I realize that during the time I was unconscious, they thought I was broken. No matter how much they called me, I didn't respond, and they were panicking. In desperation, my brother thought of how Dylan had seemed interested in my static electricity sound before, so he went to ask for help. Dylan was indeed a tech geek. He had actually analyzed the patterns from the soul fluctuations I unconsciously emitted. He adjusted the program and said to me, Riley, can you hear me? If you can, try to make a sound, any sound will do. I tried to focus my mind and emitted a weak, sound. Immediately, a long string of zeros and ones appeared on the tablet screen. Dylan's eyes lit up, and his fingers flew across the keyboard. A few seconds later, the screen displayed a character. Yes. It worked, my brother shouted excitedly. My mom covered her mouth, tears streaming down again. From that day on, Dylan became a frequent visitor to our home, and also became my personal translator. With his help, I no longer had to struggle to organize my thoughts. I only needed to emit soul power fluctuations representing yes or no to have simple conversations, and my family could finally confirm that I was not some vengeful spirit. I was still their Riley. However, Aunt Brenda did not give up. After being scared away that day, she was quiet for a few days. But soon she came knocking again. This time, she was even more confident. Brother, sister-in-law, I've already consulted a lawyer, she said, raising her chin, holding a document in her hand. Your current mental state is very unstable, and you are no longer suitable to manage your assets. As your only direct relative, I have the right to apply to become your guardian. She actually wanted to take everything from our family, through legal means. Don't even think about it, my dad said, trembling with anger. That's not up to you, Brenda sneered. You're talking to an urn, and you've made your house look like it's been bombed. Just ask any neighbor, who would believe you're normal. She pointed to Dylan, who was standing aside with an embarrassed expression. For example, this young brother. Do you dare to say in front of me that this family is normal? Dylan frowned, but did not speak. Brenda was even more smug. See? I've already filed an application with the court, and soon professionals will come to conduct a mental evaluation on you. When that happens, you'll obediently go to the nursing home to live out your days, and I'll take good care of this house for you. My mom's lips turned white with anger, but she couldn't say a word. My dad clenched his fists tightly. My brother was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. We all fell into a sense of helplessness we had never felt before. Yeah, how could we explain to a normal person that the urn in our house could talk, throw tantrums, and protect the family? We would only be seen as crazy. This time, Brenda had learned to be smarter. She didn't use violence, only the rules to crush us. Looking at her smug face, the anger in my heart burned again. I couldn't let her conspiracy succeed. I focused my mind to the extreme, and through Dylan's tablet, I transmitted my message word by word. Dylan watched the words popping up on the screen, his face becoming more and more serious. He looked up at Brenda and slowly said, Ms. Brenda, you're right, Uncle and Aunt's mental state does need to be evaluated by professionals. Brenda smiled triumphantly. My mom and dad's faces showed despair. But Dylan changed his tone, his eyes becoming sharp. Before evaluating them, perhaps we should first evaluate this lawyer consultation document in your hand, and the professional qualifications of that lawyer behind you. Brenda's smile froze on her face. What do you mean? Dylan turned the tablet to her, and on the screen was a picture and information of a man. This is your lawyer, right? Victor, male, 45 years old, unemployed. He has been imprisoned 3 times for crimes such as forging documents and fraud. I just did a quick search. He doesn't even have a lawyer's license. Dylan's tone wasn't fast, but every word was like a hammer, hitting Brenda's heart hard. I also found some interesting things. Dylan swiped his finger across the screen, and screenshots of chat logs popped up. For example, you discussing how to fabricate evidence of my uncle and aunt's mental instability, how to find a fake assessment agency, and how to split the money after it's done. The last sentence in the chat log was Brenda's. Once I get the house, I'll throw that unlucky urn into the river. You're talking nonsense. This is fabricated. Brenda's face was as pale as paper, and her voice was trembling. Whether it's fabricated or not, the police will investigate it clearly. Dylan put away the tablet, took out his phone, and pressed the dial button. Hello 110? I want to report that someone here is suspected of fraud and forgery. At that moment, Dylan was shining in my eyes. Who said programmers were all dull? This combat power is off the charts. Later I learned that Dylan wasn't just a programmer. He was also a well-known white hat hacker. After the explosion in my house that day, out of curiosity, he left a small backdoor in my home network. Brenda thought she was smart, using her phone to contact that fake lawyer, but she didn't know that her every move was under Dylan's surveillance. The police arrived quickly. As Brenda was being handcuffed and taken away, she was still roaring at us like a madwoman. You'll regret this. You crazy people. Living with a dead person. We didn't regret it. We only felt unprecedentedly relaxed. This farce finally ended in a satisfying way. The house returned to peace, but this time, it was true peace. My parents specially treated Dylan to a big meal. During the meal, my mom kept trying to stuff her bank card into Dylan's hand as a reward, but Dylan refused with a smile. Auntie, I just did what I could, he said. Besides, Riley has also helped me. We were all stunned. Dylan explained that he was recently working on an artificial intelligence project and had been stuck at a bottleneck. But by analyzing my unique brainwaves, that is, my soul force fluctuations, He gained great inspiration and found the key to solving the problem. In a sense, we are helping each other. He looked in my direction and smiled. I suddenly felt that this usually cold technical guy looked pretty good when he smiled. With the crisis resolved, my family, plus Dylan, began to seriously study how to communicate with me more effectively. Dylan used his powerful technology to make me an upgraded version of the translator. It was a small signal receiver connected to a tablet, placed next to my urn. As long as I focused my mind, I could type what I wanted to say in the tablet's document. I finally didn't have to be a repeating machine that could only answer yes or no. On the first day I had the ability to type. The first thing I did was to make a 3-page-long indictment against my brother Justin, including but not limited to stealing my snacks, snatching my game console, using my limited edition poster to pad the table leg. Justin's face turned green looking at the dense words, and finally, under my parents' loving education, he wrote a tearful 5,000-word self-criticism. My dad didn't escape either. I revealed all the bottles of his private wine that he secretly hid under the flower pots on the balcony, in the cracks of the sofa, and behind the old bookcase. My mom stood in front of a pile of wine bottles, hands on her hips, smiling like a spring breeze. That night, my dad slept on the sofa. The whole house was filled with joyful air. Even though I was still trapped in this small box, I felt the meaning of my existence more than ever before. I was no longer the little daughter who needed to be protected. I had become the guardian of this family. I reminded my mom to take her keys when she went out, reminded my dad to take his blood pressure medication on time, supervised my brother's thesis writing, and could even spoil who the villain was when my mom was watching dramas. Our family was reunited in a completely new and peculiar way. As the days went by, my soul power seemed to be slowly increasing. At first, I could only influence some electronic devices. Later, I could make the cup on the table move slightly. Later still, I could even help my mom hand her the remote control that had fallen on the floor. They no longer treated me as a fragile urn, but as a real, living family member. At mealtimes, my place was always at the head of the table. When watching TV, my brother would leave the best viewing angle for me. At family meetings, my mom would be the first to ask, "Riley, what do you think?" Once, my mom's friend came to visit, and seeing me placed in the center of the living room, she curiously asked, "Susan, what are you worshipping here?" My mom puffed out her chest proudly and said, "This is my family's smart housekeeper high-tech limited edition, only one in the world." The aunt looked completely impressed and bewildered. Hiding in the box, I almost laughed my soul out of my body. Time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, it was my death anniversary. That day, my parents didn't cry like last year, but bought my favorite strawberry cake and milk tea and placed them in front of me. My brother Justin also rarely didn't play games. He sat next to me, chatting about interesting things at school recently, and the girl he had never dared to pursue. Dylan also came, bringing a small robot he had made himself. The robot could perform some simple actions based on the commands I typed, such as nodding, shaking his head, and waving. "Happy birthday, Riley," he said. Although it was a death anniversary, they all tacitly chose to use the word birthday. Looking at them, my heart felt warm. I drove the little robot to wave awkwardly at them. Then I typed a line of words on the tablet. "Thank you." My mom's eyes welled up again as she looked at the line, but she quickly held back her tears and said with a smile, "Silly girl, why be polite with your own family?" That night, my family and Dylan watched a movie that was my favorite when I was alive. When the movie ended, my mom suddenly asked me, "Riley, have you ever thought about reincarnating?" The living room fell silent instantly. This was a question we had all deliberately avoided. My dad and my brother were both nervously looking at me, and the tablet next to me. I was silent. To reincarnate? To live a completely new life, with a healthy body, able to run, to jump, to hug the people I wanted to hug. Of course, it was very tempting. But if I left, what would happen to this family? My mom would forget to turn off the stove. My dad would not be able to find his glasses. My brother would stuff his dirty socks everywhere. They would lose their smart housekeeper, their treasure of the house. They would once again lose their daughter. Looking at the complex expressions of worry and anticipation on their faces, I made a decision in my heart. On the tablet, I typed my answer word by word. Not planning to for now. The signal here is good, takeout can be delivered, and there are free movies to watch. It's nice to be a shut-in after death. My brother was the first to laugh out loud. That's my sister, such a shut-in even after she's dead. My dad breathed a sigh of relief, patting his chest and saying, that's right, why reincarnate, it's so troublesome, our home is better. My mom didn't laugh. She walked over and gently hugged me. Riley, Mom knows you're doing this for us. But if one day you want to leave, you must tell us. We can't be so selfish as to keep you tied here forever. My soul trembled slightly. Mom, I'm not being tied here, I typed. I myself chose to stay here. Because here is my home. From then on, no one ever mentioned the word reincarnation again. Our lives had entered a stable and harmonious orbit. Dylan became half a son to our family, constantly dropping by for meals and incidentally upgrading my operating system. With his help, I could now play two-player games with my brother through that little robot. Although I always lost due to input lag, my brother would always say smugly, "Sis, your skills are as bad as when you were alive." Then I'd chase him around with the little robot. I even helped Dylan cloud raise a cat. It was a stray ginger cat that often appeared downstairs. Dylan always wanted to adopt it, but he was afraid he'd be too busy with work to take care of it properly. So I became the cat monitor. Every day, I would observe the ginger cat's movements through the window and report them to Dylan in real time. Report. Target Big Orange appeared by the downstairs trash can at 10:03 a.m., attempting to open the trash can lid. Report. Target Big Orange is in a dispute with a white cat, reason unknown, suspected territorial dispute. Report. Target Big Orange was fed a sausage by Grandma Wong next door and is now lying on the ground, belly up. Dylan would laugh hysterically every day as he watched my real-time battle reports. Later, the ginger cat probably thought that the feng shui of our building was good. And the food was also good, so it simply settled down downstairs. Dylan built it a nest and took care of it with good food and drink every day, and I became its electronic nanny. These days were peaceful, trivial, but full of life. I almost forgot that I was a ghost, an existence trapped in an urn, not belonging to this world. Until one day, an unexpected person broke the peace. That day the doorbell rang. My mom thought it was Dylan and opened the door without looking. Standing at the door was a man with tattered clothes and a haggard face. It was the fake lawyer we had sent to prison, Victor. He had lost a lot of weight, his eyes were cloudy, and he looked like he was having a very hard time. Why are you here? My mom was startled and instinctively tried to close the door. But Victor put his hand against the door and squeezed in. Mrs. Susan, don't be afraid, I'm not here to cause trouble. I'm here to ask you for a favor. My dad and my brother heard the noise and came out of their rooms, watching him warily. We have nothing to say to you, get out. My dad said coldly. No, please hear me out. Victor suddenly knelt down with a thump and kowtowed repeatedly. Please save my daughter. We were all stunned. Victor took out a photo from his pocket. In the photo was a little girl with a sweet smile. My daughter. She has a serious illness and needs a lot of money for surgery. That's why I was bewitched by that woman, Brenda, and did the wrong thing. After I got out of prison, I couldn't find any work, and I'm running out of time to raise the money for the surgery. He looked up, his red eyes looking at us, no, looking at me. I heard from Brenda that your family has gods. She said that your daughter, Miss Riley, she can manifest, she has boundless power. Please, Miss Riley, please have mercy and save my daughter. You can have anything you want, you can even have my life. The living room was silent. I looked at this man who had gone astray for his daughter, and was now kneeling and begging for his daughter, and my heart was complicated. He was a liar, a bad person. But he was also a father. My mom's heart softened, and she looked at me, her eyes questioning. My dad frowned, not saying a word. My brother had a look of disdain on his face. Who knows if he's telling the truth? He's probably just here to cheat us out of money again. Yes, he could be faking it. But what if it was true? It was a vibrant life, just like I used to be. I was silent for a long time. Finally, I typed a line on the tablet. Take me to see. Everyone was stunned. Riley, you. My mom looked at me with worry. Mom, I just want to see. My dad sighed deeply and finally compromised. And so our family, with a con man and carrying an urn, embarked on what could only be described as a bizarre home visit. Victor's home was in a dark and damp basement. The room was filled with the smell of medicine and mildew. A little girl lay in bed, her face sallow and her breathing weak. She was the girl in the photo, but much thinner, almost unrecognizable. Seeing us enter, she tried her best to prop herself up and gave us a weak smile. In that instant, I felt like I was seeing myself lying in a hospital bed again. There was no more doubt. Everything Victor said was true. My mom's eyes immediately reddened when she saw this scene. Without a word, she took out a bank card from her bag and stuffed it into Victor's hand. There's 50,000 yuan in here. Take it and use it to treat your daughter. Victor was stunned. He looked at the card in his hand, then at my mom, his lips trembling, unable to say a word. The password is your daughter's birthday, my mom said. Victor could no longer hold back and knelt on the ground, weeping loudly. Watching this scene, my soul fluttered slightly. So things I couldn't accomplish while alive, I could complete in another way after death. I made this family better, and also made this world a little warmer because of my small wisp of a soul. I thought it was over. But I was wrong. A few days later, Victor came looking for us again. This time he wasn't coming for help, but to repay our kindness. He somehow found out that our family had been troubled by a problem, and that was me. Although I could communicate with my family through devices and move objects slightly, I was still a ghost trapped in an urn. I couldn't leave this box, couldn't live like a normal person. Miss Riley, Victor's eyes gleamed with a kind of feverish light. I know someone who might be able to help you. The person Victor mentioned, surnamed Bai, was a paper craftsman. It sounded unremarkable, but Victor described him as almost divine. Master White isn't an ordinary paper craftsman. His family's craftsmanship has been passed down for hundreds of years. Legend has it that the things he makes can connect the yin and yang, and allow souls to possess them. My brother curled his lips. Superstitious nonsense. My dad also thought it was unreliable. If he's really that magical, why doesn't he make himself a mountain of gold? Only my mom was listening. She didn't want to give up on any possibility that could make me better. I didn't really have much hope. I knew my own situation. My soul and this urn seemed to have a strange connection, completely inseparable. But looking at my mom's expectant eyes, I couldn't bear to refuse. So one weekend our family, along with Dylan, led by Victor, found the paper shop hidden deep in the old streets of the city. The shop was small, dimly lit, and the air was filled with the smell of paper and glue. An old man with white hair, wearing a Chinese-style jacket, was sitting at a table, slowly and deliberately tying a paper figure's frame with bamboo strips. He was Master White. He looked like an ordinary old neighbor, with a peaceful gaze, without a hint of being a master. Victor respectfully explained our purpose. Master White put down the work in his hands, raised his head, and his turbid eyes swept over us, eventually landing on my mom holding my urn. He didn't take out a compass like the previous Master Wayne, nor did he chant any spells. He just quietly looked at me for a while. Then he spoke, his voice a bit old but very clear. "Girl, do you want to come out?" He wasn't asking my mom, nor was he asking anyone else. I could feel that he was asking me. Could he see me? Or rather, could he sense me? My heart leaped, and I subconsciously typed a word through Dylan's tablet. Yes. Master White nodded, seemingly unsurprised. Your soul, due to your attachment and family's bond, is locked within this spirit bone. This is both your prison and your amulet, he said slowly. Forcibly separating it will only cause your soul to dissipate. My mom's face paled instantly. Then isn't there any other way? She asked anxiously. Master White pondered for a moment and said, there is a way, but it requires something. What is it? No matter how expensive, we'll buy it. My dad said immediately. Master White shook his head. Money can't buy it. He stood up and took something out of an old wooden box in the back room. It was a puppet carved from fine sandalwood, about a foot tall, with delicate features. Between its eyebrows and eyes, It bore a 70 or 80% resemblance to my appearance in life. This is the soul-lodging puppet passed down from my ancestors, Master White said, stroking the puppet with a hint of nostalgia in his eyes. It can use the blood of a destined person and the tears of a close relative as a guide, and then with secret methods, create a temporary body for the soul. However, he changed his tone. This body is not a real physical body. It cannot eat or drink, has no body temperature, and can only move freely for one in each day, which is 2 hours. Once the time is up, the soul must return to the spirit bone to recuperate, otherwise, it will weaken and dissipate. Only 2 hours each day. But for me, this was a huge breakthrough from zero to something. To be able to leave this box, to be able to touch this world with my own hands, even if it's only for 2 hours, is enough. My soul trembled with excitement. I'm willing. I quickly typed on the tablet. My mom looked at me, her eyes moist. She nodded. As long as it's good for my Riley, we're willing to do anything. The ritual that followed was simpler than I imagined. Master White took a drop of blood from my brother's fingertip and had my mom drip a tear onto the puppet's brow. The blood and tears were instantly absorbed by the puppet and disappeared. Then he placed the puppet in front of my urn, lit 3 incense sticks, and chanted something under his breath. I couldn't hear what he was chanting, but I felt a gentle and powerful force gently pull my soul out of the urn. The feeling was wonderful, like taking off a heavy and constricting coat. I floated in the air, seeing my family clearly for the first time from this perspective. My mom was crying, and my dad was holding her tightly. My brother was clenching his fists nervously. Dylan and Victor were also holding their breaths. The force guided me slowly towards the puppet. The moment my soul came into contact with the puppet, I felt a dizzying sensation. When I opened my eyes again, I realized that my perspective had changed. I was no longer looking down from above, but looking at them at eye level. I looked down and saw a pair of delicate, wooden hands. I tried to wiggle my fingers. The hands wiggled along. I succeeded. I had a body. Riley. Riley. My mom called out in a trembling voice. I looked up, wanting to smile at her, but the puppet's face was stiff and could not make expressions. So I took a step, one step at a time, slowly walking towards her. My movements were a bit stiff, like a marionette, but every step was incredibly determined. Finally, I walked to her. I reached out and gently hugged her with these cold, wooden hands. I couldn't give her warmth, nor could I let her feel my heartbeat. But I could let her know that her daughter had returned. My mom couldn't hold back anymore, hugging my cold puppet body and crying loudly. On my first day having a body, the first thing I did was rush into my brother's room and dig out all the private money he had hidden under his bed. Then in front of his face, I handed it to my mom. My brother's expression was even more spectacular than when I spoiled his crimes back then. I made a face at him with my puppet body. Even though the facial muscles couldn't move, I believed that my pride was perfectly conveyed. The feeling of having a body is truly wonderful. Although this body has no sensation, cannot feel hot or cold, and cannot taste anything, it allows me to walk freely around this house. I help my mom clean up, even though I'm always clumsy and drop things. I play chess with my dad, although I always get so angry when he takes back moves that I want to flip the table. I even gave the orange tabby cat downstairs, Big Orange, a bath with Dylan. Big Orange seemed to sense the special aura around me, and wasn't afraid of me at all, letting me knead and rub him obediently. The 2 hours of free time I get every day have become the happiest moments of my day. And my family and Dylan always put aside everything they're doing to spend time with me. We watch movies together, chat, and do all sorts of boring but fun things together. They tell me about what happened while I was offline, office gossip, and interesting stories from the neighbors. I'm like a child studying abroad, only able to video call my family at set times each day. And my urn has become my charger. Every day when the time comes, I obediently return to the urn to charge, nurturing my soul and looking forward to the next day's free time. These days are so happy, like a dream I don't want to wake up from. But dreams, after all, must come to an end. That day, Master White suddenly found us. His face was very solemn. "Girl," he said to me, "you can't keep going on like this." We were all stunned. "Your soul has bonded too well with this possessed puppet. So well that It's beginning to erode your soul. Master White explained that although the possessed puppet can provide a temporary dwelling for the soul, it is, after all, an inanimate object. If the soul relies on it for too long, it will gradually be assimilated, losing its original spirituality, and eventually becoming a true puppet, an empty shell without thoughts or memories. Have you noticed recently that your free time is becoming less and less efficient? Are you becoming more and more reluctant to return to the urn? I felt a chill in my heart. Master White had hit the mark. Recently, I had indeed become more and more greedy for this body that could walk. 2 hours a day was becoming shorter and shorter for me, and every time I had to return to the cold urn, I felt a deep-seated resistance and annoyance. If this continues in less than 3 months, your soul will be completely assimilated. By then you really won't be able to come back, Master White sighed. My mom's face turned white with fear. Then what do we do? Master White, please, you must save my daughter. Master White was silent for a long time before slowly saying, there's only one solution, and that is, let her go to where she needs to go. Go where she needs to go. Reincarnation. This word that we hadn't mentioned for a long time was, once again, placed before us. Is there no other way? My brother asked, his eyes red. Can't we just keep going on like this? Master White shook his head. The cycle of heaven's way has its fixed numbers. She shouldn't be lingering in the human world in the first place. It's your bonds and her own attachments that have kept her here until now. Now the fate is over. Forcing her to stay will only harm her. The living room was silent. No one spoke, but an atmosphere of sadness weighed heavily on everyone's heart. I looked at my parents' graying hair, at my brother's forced strength, at Dylan's tightly furrowed brow. I knew that this time, I had to make a choice. To be greedy for this brief companionship, ultimately leading to the destruction of my soul. Or to let go, to go to that unknown afterlife, giving them, and myself, a new beginning? I used my puppet body to walk to my mom and gave her a hug. Then my dad, my brother, and finally Dylan. I hugged everyone I loved. Finally, I returned to my charger, and solemnly typed a line of text on the tablet. I'm ready. Send me off. The day of the farewell was a beautiful day. The sunlight streamed through the windows, scattering warmth in the living room. Master White said that sending off a soul needed to be done in a place with the deepest connection to the soul. Our home was the best choice. My parents didn't cry. They dressed me in my favorite dress. Of course, they put it on my puppet body. My brother gave me his treasured limited edition Gundam model, saying that it could keep me company over there. Dylan placed the little robot in my hand, saying that he had upgraded it, and it contained all the photos and videos of our family. Forget us, but don't forget that you were loved like this, he said. I looked at them, wanting to laugh, but the puppet's face still couldn't make any expressions. I had no choice but to control the little robot and wave vigorously at them. Master White's ritual was simple, without incense or talismans. He just had us all sit together and chat like usual. We talked about my embarrassing childhood stories, my proud expression when I received my first award certificate, and the trips we had taken together. We laughed and joked, as if this was just a normal family gathering. Only, the corners of everyone's eyes were glistening with tears. When the hands of the clock pointed to noon, Master White spoke. The time has come. He told me to return to my urn. This time I didn't resist at all. As my soul left my body and returned to that familiar darkness, I took one last look at my home. In the sunlight, my loved ones were sitting together, smiling and waving at me. Goodbye, Mom. Goodbye, Dad. Goodbye, brother. Goodbye, Dylan. Goodbye, my home.